Okay, well, Robin, you and I recorded that discussion a long time ago, like at least a month or two ago or something. It's now come out, but now we are in the future, and we wanted to record kind of and put out simultaneously a bonus discussion between you and Jacob, because I talked to Jacob about our discussion, and Jacob had a really interesting reaction to where he basically agrees with you, except for like 1% of cases, which was so interesting to me because I think most people that listen to that episode, like we are all expecting a lot of people to disagree with a lot of the things that we said in that episode. And ironically, most of them will be disagreeing with where everyone is on this discussion because Jacob's like, I agree with 99%. In 99% of cases, I never bring up adoption sidewalk counseling, but every once in a while, like twice in the last couple of years or something, I have, and I think those were good calls. And you've been kind of on the 100% on the sidewalk, never bring it up place. And so you only have 1% of disagreement. Whereas I think most of our listeners will have like 75% of disagreement or something like that, which is fine. We're kind of really swimming against the stream of what pro-life people have tended to say about adoption. And so I thought, one, out of respect for Jacob, who's on our team and has talked about this kind of thing in public on our channel too, I just want to make sure that he gets a chance to get his views out. But also, it's just like, let's just get you guys talking and interacting with each other's ideas, because that's going to take this deeper than we could have gone if just like Jacob and I did a post thing. Like, I want to get you guys talking to each other. And so, Jacob, maybe if you could go first. Talk a little bit about where you're at. What were your thoughts about the episode? What are some of the things that you like agreed with? And then I think probably naturally we're just going to kind of end up talking about the very, very few cases where you both actually disagree, which is super interesting to me.
Yeah, well, I want to just back up a little bit where I was not on this page where I didn't think adoption should be brought up. When I first started sidewalk counseling, I thought it's it must be the right way to go. So I'm going to use it. And it's taken quite a bit of time. And it's really interesting that, we've come across Robin. I forget how you guys met or whatever happened there, but then Josh told me about this podcast.
A lot of
like,
Twitter. It was
I was like, really? Okay. It's so interesting that she's come to this place and so have I. Like, we've kind of both come to this place from different perspectives and came to the pretty much the same conclusion. I mean, we're so close. We're just so close on this that what we disagree on is such well, what I think we disagree on, I don't know. We'll find out in a bit. But it is such a minor thing. But I just want to like focus on the fact just for a minute here, what a big shift this is. And I recognize for our audience and for a lot of sidewalk counselors are just like, wait, what? You're saying don't bring up adoption? That sounds crazy. It seems like the right thing to do. Adoption's the option. And books have been written about this. And we hold signs up, and maybe some people have had some success with those signs where they feel like, that's what got the person out. So I understand this is a sensitive topic. I haven't shifted to this position lightly. It's been with a lot of thought and a lot of trial and error and experimentation and trying to find out, really what's the best thing here. So it was just really, it was really refreshing listening to you guys talk. I know that, people are like, well, you disagree. It's like, but so much of it was refreshing for me to hear because Robin was articulating things that I had kind of found out and learned about, but she was just articulating it so well. And then she was bringing up other points and I was like, I didn't even know about that. That's really interesting. Okay. So I haven't just gone off my rocker. At least somebody else, has come to this conclusion. This is great. And as you guys will find out, Robin's a very intelligent woman. She's not just flying off the handle. She's a well thought out, articulate person who's come to these conclusions in a very rational way. And that's fine if, some of you guys disagree with us, but I think you should at least take note that we got here and it was not lightly. And I'll say that, I think we got here from two different paths, I think, in talking to Robin. Like, I got here by being on the sidewalk and trying to use adoption as a tool to persuade moms to make the choice for life for their baby. And I just found that it was not persuasive at all. And it just failed time after time. I try it different ways and bring it up in different methods. And it was frustrating because it seemed like something I thought was a solution to the problem, but it really seemed to almost make tension between myself and the abortion-minded person. So going through that, I just found myself, if a tool's not working, I change it. I try to reuse it, figure out a way to see if it will work. If I'm just doing something wrong, maybe it's my body language, I don't know. And after multiple tries, it just doesn't work. I'll abandon it and use it less and less and less and less.
Is the ERI way.
And so I found that was happening. And then I heard Robin talking, and it's like, oh, thank goodness. Okay. Because it's a difficult conclusion to come to, I think. So I've been rambling for a while. I want you guys to hear from Robin.
Well, I'd love to just give the backstory of how I got here too, because it was just in the last 2 years that I got to this point. So I went 40 some years thinking, well, that's not true. I was pro-choice for a while. So let's say 20 years thinking that adoption was the option. And I came about it from the perspective of I wanted to really understand why I disagreed with abortion. What were my basic tenets of that, but not just for the baby, for the mom. Why I don't think abortion is the answer for the mom either. And it was through that I started thinking about, okay, what are the answers we're offering them instead? And wait a minute, some of the same themes I don't like about abortion for the mom show up with adoption for the mom. And I had to really start thinking through, so if I'm saying abortion tells a mom that she can't parent, she's not capable, she finances are a problem, or whatever, is adoption for all those same reasons telling her the same thing, she can't parent. And so that's how I started to come to this conclusion, was from looking at it from the mom's perspective. And for people who don't know, or maybe didn't see the episode, I've had an abortion in my past. So that's part of how I come to these conclusions too, is what did it do for me? What did it not do for me? What were the pros and cons of it? Regardless of whether I think it's ethical or not, there are pros, right. There are cons. And so what are all of those things? Same with adoption. What are the pros and cons? And I come from a mental health perspective as well. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I work with all reproductive related issues. So I work with pre and post abortive moms and pre and post adoptive bio parents and adoptive parents and children that have been adopted. So it comes from all of that perspective as well. So I just want to give people that background too. And it really, like you said, it wasn't an easy thing, and it's not an easy thing to talk about in general with people, because I think people naturally feel like, but it's such a beautiful thing. And it can be. And like I was talking with Josh, it's not that I think it should never happen. I just think we need to be really careful about how it happens. Mm-hmm. So I hope we'll tease some of that out in our conversation.
Yeah, well, we're certainly on the same page there. And I really like how in conversations that you and I have had, how we want to empower the birth mom and say, you are capable of doing this. You can do this. You're not stupid. You're not an idiot. You're not some kind of invalid who just can't do this. You're actually capable, and you're smart, and you can be a mom. You can be a great mom if that's what you want to choose to do and move forward. But don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it for some reason because of your status somehow, or your capabilities. Most of the time that's our own worst enemy is ourselves, and we're telling ourselves that, and we just don't want to be a part of that. We don't want to be a part of that negative conversation you're having with yourself, saying that you can't do this, because I think that just about everybody can.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's cool. We're on that kind of same page, and it's something that I really hadn't considered. I came to it, and we talked about this just a minute ago. I came to it because it just wasn't working at the clinic. It just seemed weird to the people, and after kind of hearing you talk about these reasonings, it started kind of making sense. Maybe some of that barrier that I was putting up, one of those walls I was putting up in our conversation, was I was implying by bringing up adoption that you're not capable, that the best thing you can do is not have this child, which is the same thing the abortion industry is telling them. And I don't want any part of that. And kind of realizing, okay, I'm taking part of this by suggesting you should have an adoption, or you should gift your child an adoption, is implying that you're not capable of doing this. And wow, I'm glad that I've realized it so I can stop doing it. But it is one of those things where we tell people you're going to fail, you're going to make mistakes. This is one of mine. I wish I had not have brought up adoption like I did in the past. I think it costs conversations and costs a lot of effectiveness that I probably could have had out on the clinic, at the clinic sidewalk.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we've all got things that we wish we had done differently. And as pro-lifers and just people in general, right? And so I've had a lot of my work in the last 2 years in the pro-life movement is really understanding the pro-choice movement and understanding abortion-minded women. And maybe it's because I share that wound with other women who have had abortions, but I really want to understand that place. And everybody's got their own story. So I can't say all women were like me and how they ended up in their abortion. But I can say statistically, when we look at what research is done, and I'm not saying all the research done is good methodology or applicable, generalizable to an entire population, but the research we do have shows that women who are denied abortion don't become bad moms or incapable moms. They actually turn out to be really good moms typically. And women that are denied abortion overwhelmingly become more pro-life because they're grateful once their mom's born. And so I think there's this cognitive disconnect between how could a woman choose abortion over adoption? Why would she rather have a dead baby than a alive baby, just that she doesn't have to care about? And I think that's this idea of she just doesn't want to care about a baby. And I don't think most women choose abortion because they just don't want a baby. It's not choosing no child, it's choosing no crisis. So whatever crisis she feels she's in is what she wants out of. She doesn't want out of the child, she wants out of the crisis.
Well said.
Yeah. So I think it's hard for people to understand, well, why would she choose abortion then? You're offering her the life of her child, but because giving away your child is painful.
Right.
When you
another crisis.
Right. It's another crisis. Now, there are a very small percentage of people that just don't want kids and are very adverse to kids or antinatalist or some extreme, kids are horrible. And we should take their children and give them to people that want to raise children. But that's a very small amount. And I don't mean take them that we against their will, but if they don't want to raise their child, yes, we should help them find a home that does. But that's a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of women that are seeking abortions. The majority of them are seeking them out of crisis. And I think it's easy to listen to the rhetoric and slogans and all the propaganda back and forth, and a lot of the shout your abortion type of stuff sounds like, oh, they're so happy. They're so glad. And really, if you listen to the shout your abortion messages, it's all around the crisis averted. It's not yay, I just don't have a kid. It's, oh, I'm not in poverty anymore. Or, oh, I was able to go back to college. Or, oh, I was able to escape this abuser. It's all about the crisis they averted, not about I'm just so grateful I don't have a kid.
Right. I took control back in my life and got it back on track.
Right.
With this abortion. Yeah. I'm going to do a shameless plug here for anybody who hasn't been through our course. We talk a lot about one of the reasons why I think that our course is very effective is because we talk a lot about understanding the mindset of an abortion-minded woman and father. And of course, it's not a rubber stamp thing. But there are some things that are usually pretty similar, and we encourage you to, get into conversation and find out what are the differences and the particulars. But go through our course and you'll be able to learn why, and some really helpful tools that'll help you understand like what is the person going through. Because I love how you brought up how we need to understand the mindset of an abortion-minded person and where they're coming from and what they're going through. And I love how you pointed out that it's not that they're trying to kill their baby or they hate babies or anything like that. I know that's something that a lot of pro-life people have bought into, but that's not how pro-choice people think and what they're doing. They're trying to get out of a crisis and they're trying to take control back in their life. And I'm very sympathetic to that. Of course, I disagree with how they're doing it, but I understand why they're doing that. Right. If we can do that, we're going to be a lot more effective out there. But go ahead, Josh. You wanted to say something?
Well, and just for clarity, you're talking about the Sidewalk Counseling Masterclass. There are 2 courses now. So when you say take the course, in this case, you meant the Sidewalk Counseling one, I think, although people should really do both. Okay, so what I want to do is zoom in on the 1% you disagree on. And I want to start by sort of pitching a clarification question to Robin, because what I'm going to try to do is accurately summarize really succinctly both your views. But there's a clarification question coming for Robin from the beginning, because I think I can predict a certain thing that might already be confusing to people right now. So I think Jacob's view is that sidewalk counselors specifically should not bring up adoption hardly ever, but that there is about 1% of cases, at least like literally that's like based on Jacob trying to do the math, how often he's actually gone here and has not regretted it later. Probably about 1% of cases that are like the hard cases, like these really extreme cases that I'll let Jacob describe for himself. What's the difference between the 1% and the 99, but that there's 1%. Robin, I think your view is that sidewalk counselors specifically should bring up adoption in 0% of the cases. But I want to throw you a clarification question, because you have said multiple times, even in this discussion, that you don't think that adoption should never happen, that there are these rare cases where it is the best case. So I think, and I'm going to tell you what I think is going on, but then you clarify whatever I get wrong. I think you're thinking those cases, those rare cases where adoption is the best option for this particular birth mom, those are cases you're not going to figure that out at the sidewalk. The sidewalk counselor should never bring up adoption. Maybe there are other people further down the line where that should be talked about. But if you could clarify a little bit better your view, just so that it can be clear, what's the difference between your view and Jacob's view? Because right now it might sound like you both are against bringing up adoption in 99% of the cases, but I don't think that's the case.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm not a sidewalk counselor, and I'm definitely not an expert on it. And I want people to know why I don't do it. I don't do it because for me, going to an abortion clinic, okay, I'm going to try really hard not to get emotional, but it's like being in the same energy as the place that took my child. So I am not emotionally stable enough in that space to be safe for the women entering the building. And it's not like I would ever shout expletives. I would just be weeping nonstop the entire time. So like, it's just not helpful. So that's why I don't go. So I'm definitely not an expert on sidewalk counseling. I am an expert on licensed counseling. And I would say I'm afraid of what people are hearing from women who are considering abortion walking in are one of 2 types of women. One, really scared and really don't want the abortion, and there are other things that they need to hear other than adoption because they really don't want it. They're just really scared. Or a really militant, no, abortion is fine. It's a woman's choice and it doesn't matter what the circumstances. I don't owe you any explanation. And therefore, nothing you tell her regarding adoption is going to change her mind. So and maybe my perception of what women look like walking into the clinic is wrong because I don't do sidewalk counseling, but that's kind of my perception of what that would look like. So I think directing women to other options, or just like, hey, do you want to have a longer conversation about this, which shouldn't happen necessarily on a sidewalk in front, out in the open, can we get you to a pregnancy resource center? Can we get you to a counselor, an unbiased counselor? Do you know who those are in your area? The counselors that are going to be really ethical and not counsel her one way or another, but pros and cons about the situation. Is that a better option? So that's the perspective I'm coming from.
Well, I want to just back up to what you first said and tell you, I really admire that you know where you are and that it wouldn't be good for you to go to the abortion clinic and you get no, you'll have zero, like me pushing you in any other direction. I want to appreciate that you know your limits and what you can do, and that is no problem. I think that's a very mature, great place to come from. I have been at the clinic where someone has been there and they lost their composure, and that's it's tough because it's like, okay, we got to get this person like out of here, and so that puts a pause to the sidewalk counseling, and maybe that's what God has happening right then. Maybe that's how I need to love that person and where they're at. But I think it's better for people to be like yourself and go, okay, I'm not gonna go. I'll pray for those people. Maybe I'll take a time to pray for them or whatever, but I don't feel comfortable. And if you never get there, that's fine. That's okay. Like maybe that's just not part of your calling in life. That's fine. Not everybody is supposed to be a sidewalk counselor and go to the abortion clinic, and that's okay. And so I just want to let you know that I'm perfectly okay with what you said. As a matter of fact, I admire it. I'm glad that you know yourself well enough to know your limits there.
Well, can I just throw something in there so people can have the perspective? I only acknowledged my abortion about 2 years ago as well. So I'm still, it happened over 20 years ago, but I really only acknowledged it too. So I'm still very much fresh in the healing process. And there may be a time that I can go without it being so intense. But sure, women reach out to me in all kinds of ways. So there are, like, it might sound crazy, but the work I do on Twitter, I get a lot of DMs from women considering abortion or wounded by abortion. So that might just be my unconventional mission field. I don't know. God will tell me where I need to go. But right now, I appreciate the encouragement to know where you are and know what you can and cannot do, and that's okay.
Yeah. That's really awesome that even though you're not on the sidewalk, you're still doing like a counseling abortion-minded women. That's awesome. I mean, they're still coming to you. I don't get many DMs from people, hey, I get more of the friend of the friend.
You wouldn't know if they sent you a DM, whatever. You wouldn't know if they sent you a DM, Jacob. You wouldn't figure it out.
True. It's so true.
We'll let that be Robin's thing.
It's risky having that. I get lots of hate mail and death threats and dox threats too. But so it's risky, but it's worth it for the, I've had 2 women send me pictures of the babies saying thank you for our conversation. So like those 2 are enough for me to take all the death threats in the world. So
that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move forward to we're at like where you and I may disagree. I have found, so I've got so let me say this. I think it's safer if you're a sidewalk counselor and you're just like, I don't know, it's going to be safer if you never bring up adoption. I do agree with that. It's going to be like, if you want to make a choice, either I'm bringing up adoption or I'm not, then maybe you should choose not to. I have had just a couple of cases, very rare, since I've come to this conclusion, you shouldn't do it except for very rare, where I still think it's probably the right call to make. And I'm not really confident in that answer. I'm still leaning on it's the right call, but if you guys are looking for somebody that's going to be like, it's absolutely that, then I'm not that guy. I'm just going to tell you.
If they're looking for that, they're not watching our channel. This is not the I'm super confident about all of my views pro-life channel. Go watch all of the others, basically. Okay, so Jacob, could you maybe describe those couple of cases a little bit where you've already come to functionally Robin's conclusion that almost no one else in the pro-life movement seems to have come to. And yet you still went there at some point. Just talk a little bit about why you did. What kind of things are going on in those conversations where at this point you will go there when you almost never do in the other conversations?
So in thinking about this, both the cases had something in common, and that was that the abortion-minded woman was frantic in her demeanor. She was really hard to get to a calm place where she could have a rational discussion. So it was hard to get through to her because she was just so scared. And that happens. And usually just talking about the things that they're scared about, they calm down. So this is not something that I brought up in, oh, okay, I went through these 3 things, it didn't work, so let's go to adoption. That's number 4 on the list. No, adoption's like number 20 or something, or maybe even farther back than that. But it was, I remember one young lady, she did come down to talk to us. She was just, you don't understand, I have to do this. I just can't have a baby. I can't have a baby. It'll ruin my life. And okay, I don't believe that to be true, but I'm not going to argue with her. So we used all the tools that we teach in the course. I went through multiple different things on this is what your baby, okay, so she did bond with the child somewhat. We teach about how to help somebody do that. To talk about how abortion is going to also hurt you. So you're going to be, this is going to hurt you in your future. And then we're going through all these different things and just trying to get them to go, let's just go grab some lunch where we can sit down and talk, and you can come back here. Of course, I don't want them to, but they need to have their options open so they feel free to move about. And I know for every step away from the abortion clinic, they're going to feel better. And so I'm trying to talk them into, let's just go grab a bite to eat, and we can just talk through your options. And still just frantic, things just aren't landing. And it's like, okay, I've tried everything. I feel like she's on the edge of walking back up to the clinic, and I just can't land anything. So let's try this and go, okay, look, I've got some just beautiful families who would love it if you decided to gift your child in adoption to them. And I'm giving you guys like the basic way of how I remember these things. This is not word for word and everything, but this is basically what happened. And so it seemed like that she was not going to be, stuck with the child, helped her choose to walk away from the clinic at that time. Now, I want to make it really clear to the audience. She did choose to keep the child. Like she chose to birth the child and keep the child at a later time. At that moment, I made an offer that I was fully able and willing to back up, which was we can get a loving family if you'd like to gift your child to another family. So it's not that you say that and the cat's out of the bag and that's what they have to do, anything. I threw it out there as another option that they could do. And I'll go back to, I'm just very sensitive if that could be the wrong case, because I'm telling her essentially you're not capable of it. And so at the time, I didn't have the knowledge or words to say that. Now I would say, I didn't want to bring this up because it implies something that I don't believe. And what it implies is that I think you're not capable of taking care of this child, like the abortion clinic believes. I don't think that's true. I think you're far more capable than you realize. And I think you are capable of great things. And I think you would be a great mom. I know you don't believe that, but I do. And so I don't want to bring this thing up because I don't want to imply that. But I want you to know that there are other options out there. You could choose to gift your child in adoption. I'm going to go back to, I don't think that's what you should do because I think you can be a great mom. I know you can be a great mom. But that option's there. And I did not say that whole part. Now I will definitely use that, and we're going to encourage our people to do the same. but I do remember that helping calm her down, like, okay, I'm not going to be stuck with this kid who's going to stop me from reaching my goals. I don't think the kid's going to stop them from reaching their goals, but that's what they believe. So that helped her make the decision for the time being to step away, grab a bite to eat, and rethink things. And ultimately she chose to not have an abortion and to keep the child. So those kinds of that particular situation. There was one other that I can remember, and I don't remember it really well, but I remember the basics of it. And it was, I was not talking to the abortion-minded woman. I was talking to the boyfriend, and he was the father of the child. And he was going into the clinic, talking to her, coming back out, talking to me. She won't budge, back and forth, back and forth. And over, it was probably 20 minutes, but it felt like 4 hours, okay? Him going back and forth, back and forth. I don't actually know how long it was. We brought up, look, what about gifting the child for adoption? And I can't say that was the thing that pulled her out, but she did decide not to go. It might have been one of the things that was used to help her get out. That is a much less, that is like kind of worst case scenario, which I don't know. I'm struggling through, even at this very moment, I'm struggling through if you should say that as a sidewalk counselor to the driver, somebody who, or boyfriend or whatever, to help get the person out. Because I don't think you can relay that whole thing I said earlier about you can do this, I don't want to imply this, that you're not capable. And you're feeding into the abortion clinic's narrative. So I just want to tell our audience, like, I don't know if that second story I just told you here was the right one. I mean, the kid did come out, but it could have gone really bad the other way. I have seen it earlier on where I brought up adoption and, oh, well, just go tell her we can adopt your child. And it fell flat and didn't work at all. For that case, it worked, but it's really important that I want everybody to understand for both these cases where the mom chose life for her child and chose to keep the child in both these cases, there was a lot of work done not bringing up adoption, a lot of building the person up, talking to them. Adoption was just I think it's one of the last resort things I would tell our people you can go to, just be very cautious.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That was a lot of helpful info. So let's let Robin jump in. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's great. No, it's great. It's great. I want to start with the second scenario and then go back to the first.
Okay.
Because the second one is really challenging for me because I had never really considered if a woman's there with someone pressuring her. Mm-hmm. And not that she needs an out, but she needs something to tell them to get her out.
Now, that's not what I was talking about, but yeah, that's a really great point going there. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that either. And I'm having all kinds of emotions that are probably not good about the person that's pressuring her. So I have to filter that out.
Me too. Yeah. It's so, you got to bite your tongue so much out there. It's like, I have been like, dude, you are not being a man. This is pathetic. Anyway. Yeah. Sorry,
so I think if you can somehow, if it just naturally occurs, you can separate her from that person to have a more private conversation. That's probably healthy because then you can say something along the lines of, are you safe? Are you feeling pressured? Mm-hmm. Do you need something to tell the person with you so they will take you away from here? Or do you need a ride if they won't give you one?
Really great point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if you can do that, great. If you can't, and they're with that other person and the other person's pressuring them and they're talking to you and they're not sure and the other person's pressuring them, I think in that case, I would say, would you guys want to go talk to somebody about adoption just to give them something to tell the other person of, I will consider. I'm not sure, but like that's my instinct right now is to give them any out from being coerced. Right. But I hadn't considered that today, but that's where I'm at instinctively right now is like give them any out from being coerced.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't even thinking about that, but that's a great point. Yep. So Robin and I both agree on that one.
The first case, well, so I think, let's stay with that case because I think I misunderstood that case a little bit. The person that was with her, the driver, whoever, were they not pressuring her?
I'm sorry. Yeah. So to be clear, I had convinced, or the driver had become convinced that abortion was not the right way to go.
Okay.
And so he was working to lovingly get her out without, he was actually doing the opposite of what you're saying. But I think your point still stands. But no, in his case, and I apologize, that was on me.
That's
I was
okay.
not clear. He was there as kind of, and this is very typical at the clinic, as kind of just a supporting role. Oh, okay, that's what you want to do. Okay, I'll take you in. All right, whatever you want to do, then that's what we'll do. And you make the choice, and I'll back you up with whatever. Instead of saying, look, I'd really like to make this work. I think we can be great parents. Can we, instead of going that route, they just go the route. So, but then to your point, you've got, and we see this very difficult situations where the driver, it's usually a male, is pressuring her to have the abortion. And maybe she's not sure about it or doesn't want to, and he's pushing her to it. And I think for that case, what you were just talking about, absolutely. But
yeah. So just to reiterate, in that case, step one, separate if you can and get her safe, because she's not safe if she's being pressured to court. I don't care who that person is. They are not safe for her. So get her safe first. Second of all, if she cannot be separated from them, then yes, whatever it takes to help her feel like she can leave there and give them something that will make them take her away. Is in the case of where the significant other is actually encouraging her to keep the baby, I would go all in on that. If it were me, I would be like, look, I think you can parent. I think you're an amazing person and can potentially be an amazing mother if you choose that. And you've got this partner that, whether or not you're together, wants to parent with you, and you're not alone in this. I think that's the direction I would head with that. And maybe you did that. I don't know. But I don't know that offering adoption, I would offer adoption in that case. I think I would stick in on the, you're not alone in this. You can do this. You're capable. Let's talk about what are your concerns about this and how can we meet those needs, that kind of thing.
Yeah. See, it's interesting because I really agree with so much of what you're saying. And I feel like I have done that and it still just doesn't quite land. And the problem is the frantic state of mind that they're in, where you're trying to, reassure them, but they just can't hear it. And it's like they need an out. And it's rare. Usually people calm down and they can hear what you're saying and they can start to believe the truths that we're saying. But sometimes I just can't quite get them there. And I feel like, and I think it is a bit of a gamble to bring up adoption, because you might be implying, they might be putting together in their head, oh, they actually don't think I can do this, which is extremely dangerous. And maybe the two times that I've seen this work are flukes. One of the problems here is I don't have enough testing with it, because it's such a small percentage of people that I think it's necessary to go to. Maybe in 20 years, I'll have, 50 people instead of 2, but right now.
Well, let me address the frantic mind, the first case that you presented. So as a licensed counselor, how I heard that was very similar to how I hear people who are suicidal. Yeah. And in that place, real frantic, logic doesn't come into the picture when you're suicidal. And so trying to logic someone out of wanting to harm themselves, if they're in that frantic state of mind, isn't going to work. And I wonder if that's similar to a woman who's feeling frantic and logic isn't landing. And so what we do in therapy in that is we slow down and we agree with some truths, like, yeah, I can see how you would feel that way. I can see how you would feel. Like, it's natural to have feelings like this is overwhelming. It's natural to have feelings like you don't think you can do this. It's natural to feel like this is the end of the world for you. Of course. Absolutely. I can see you feeling that way. Can you think of a single thing that would make you feel better other than this option? Is there any single thing that would make you feel better? And I will tell people in that place of mind, like, time, money, travel, notwithstanding, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big the thing is. Is there a single thing you can think of? And like, let's work backwards from there. Maybe I can't give you a trip to your parents and wherever, or whatever the thing is, right? To the woman, maybe I can't buy you a house. But if it's a house, or if it's housing, or if it's education, is there anything that would make this feel less frantic other than that option? Can you think of anything? And if they can't, is it okay if I share some things with you that I think may be helpful? Are you open to hearing those? And so just meeting them where they are and really joining them in, yep, I'm here with you. I'm in this frantic place with you. I feel like I can feel that. I can understand that. And like, let's slowly, if you can't identify anything, are you open? Are your ears, can I engage your ears to hear what I'm saying? And then so let me offer you one thing. If I can help you with assistance finding housing, how does that make you feel? Well, I'm not feeling any less better. I'm not feeling better. That's not helping. Okay, then that's not the thing you need. Let's move on to, like, what's the real thing that you need? Because there's something she needs to feel less frantic. Can we figure out what it is?
It may be that I'm not spending enough time trying to get that. I feel like I'm in a real time crunch. Like, I've got people that barely stand there with me. And I don't know, Robin. It's a lot to think about. I really like your approach. I will say that
I wonder,
you're a really gifted at being a counselor. You're good. You're very good.
Oh, thanks. I hope so.
Do you think we can train people to do what you're talking about? I think we could. I'm verbally and mentally processing very fast here. So I'm saying lots that doesn't make sense.
Sure. Well, so what I'm talking about has a name. The technique has a name. It's motivational interviewing. And when you like read a book on it or take a class on it, it's very clinical. And it's like, use step X, use step Y. But in theory, it looks a lot more like what I just described to you than the clinical way it's taught. So it's things like reflection. Oh, what I'm hearing you say is this. I can understand that feeling. Tell me more about this feeling. It's asking open-ended questions. It's hypothesizing. It's summarizing. It's all of these things of their language you're taking on and making you together in this rather than separate in this. And then it's slowly moving them back to a place of, rather than sit in cognitive distortion, let's come back to a place of.
You better describe what cognitive distortion.
Okay. Cognitive distortion is and we all have them. I'm happy to share what my cognitive distortions are, but there are illogical ways of thinking that keep us trapped in unhealthy patterns or unhealthy decisions. So for example, one of mine is I assume people think poorly of me. And it's I could give you my whole upbringing about that, but we're not here to do a therapy session on Robin. But that's one of my cognitive distortions. And so what that can happen is I can react to people then defensively or and from a place of weakness rather than a place of strength. So everybody's got cognitive distortions. And so when a person is considering ending their own life or a life of somebody else, they are not in a logical place. They're in a distorted place of this has to happen or else blank will happen. That's like predicting the future. That's one of the cognitive distortions, is jumping to conclusions and future predicting. Like, no, that's not what's going to happen, but we have to join them in that place before we can walk them out of that place.
Oh, really interesting. I want you to say that last part again. We have to what now?
Join them in that place before we can walk them out of that place.
Really important. That's really good stuff. Okay.
So Jacob, maybe I've got a question I could pose to you that might be helpful.
Yeah.
What Robin is describing, is like, here's something that sometimes, certainly in a clinical setting, has helped frantic people become less frantic. And it occurs to me, having been, not only through all of your Sidewalk counseling training, but also through other Sidewalk counseling training. So what's he's describing is so different than what most people do on the sidewalk. I wonder if, minimally speaking, this is one more thing you could try before pulling the adoption card, because it could be so different than what people are expecting, which is like, we've had that experience even on campus. Like, we are so different pro-lifers than what people are expecting. That's a lot of why they sometimes stick around for 40 minutes or more, is because they're just surprised and then kind of intrigued and curious and like, this is going a lot better than I thought it was going to go, kind of a thing. I wonder if it would at least work. At least half of the cases where you're talking to a really frantic person is going this direction first. And maybe they weren't like just on the step and like, okay, well, never mind. I'm not doing this with you. I'm just going in. Like, it's just like, it seems like it would be like a magnet, like attracting, like, I want to stay here and consider that process. And then if it doesn't work, maybe then you pull the adoption card. But like, how does that idea hit you?
I really like it. It's a very enlightening conversation. I really like it. Robin's bringing up some just great points and tips. So much of this, I think, could work well, even with people who aren't just completely frantic. But most people going to the abortion clinic are frantic on some level. They're not completely calm and thinking clearly. So I'm just hearing what Robin's saying, like, man, we could do a lot more of this kind of thing. And I know we talk about a little bit of it, but Robin's really going into depth here, which is for those, like, I want everybody to know out there, like, I feel like I'm drinking through a fire hose right now. Okay. So if you are just like, oh my goodness, I don't know, like, don't worry, we're in the same boat. Okay. So I'm just gonna say, like, there are lots of other easy things out there. Going to the abortion clinic is one of the most is an extremely difficult thing to do, just on a level of how much you're thinking and trying to process and trying to work with people and all the different paths it can go down. And we don't give people scripts. We don't want you to just follow, these things, because we want you to relate as human beings. And so what you're hearing from Robin right now is like, well, that sounds great. I just don't know if I can do that. Well, you probably can't. And the reason you can't is because you've never practiced and tried and gone through it. Guarantee you, Robin has role played this kind of thing when she was in school and learning this. So she went over it multiple times. And maybe that's something we should try to do. Like myself, I'm just learning more about this. And so more of us. So yeah, this is a lot, but think of how much more effective we could be. Now, if you just want to hold a sign and go stand out in front of the abortion clinic that says something nice, you're going to be effective. If you take on what Robin is saying here, I think you're going to be so much more effective. You keep stepping up the ladder of your effectiveness. So I really like it. It's giving me a lot to think about.
Just to underline that, I really like what you're saying about like, it feels impossible now, but you haven't tried this a lot, and some things take a lot of trying. Like I know just as an analogy, like when I first started learning the piano, I could not imagine how using both of my hands at the same time and doing things like that seems impossible. And now I don't even think about it. Like it's just as I've just been doing it for a very, very long time. And now it's not hard. It's just a thing. It's just like, I think there are a lot of things like that. And I like that you're comparing kind of like, there are some techniques that are, it is a lot harder than holding a sign. Again, doesn't mean that people shouldn't ever hold, nice signs, but It is harder and would take practice to master.
Yeah, I want to also say there's nothing special about Robin that makes Robin inherently capable of doing this and somebody else not inherently capable of doing this. Like you said, it is just practice. I went through it in college and I've been doing counseling for 16 years and using it every single day in counseling. It is not the only counseling technique I use. Wow. So learning this is not going to make you a counselor, but it is the number one tool that we use just to have conversation in counseling.
Really?
Yes. It also is a really helpful tool for parenting. Just throw that out there. But so learning this is not going to be just for the sidewalk. But I also want to address something that I think I kind of made this connection about a year ago too, with there's this inherent like anxiety and doing any kind of evangelism, whether it's pro-life or Christian evangelism, of like lives are on the line. And I feel responsible for lives being on the line. And there's this inherent anxiety of like, I'm not going to have enough time. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to explain this. I'm not going to, like, we have to kind of roll that back with, you are only responsible for your words and your actions. Mm-hmm. If the other person walks away from you, you did not fail. Mm-hmm. They just chose a different path than you would have chose for them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so really trying to manage your own anxiety in that moment of like, if I try this new thing and they walk away, it's ruined. Like, no. You are not responsible for their decisions. You are there trying to offer assistance. We are all imperfect. Even I don't do every counseling session perfectly. I don't talk to every abortion-minded person perfectly. Like, it's okay. You're only responsible for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And for my Christian brothers and sisters out there, I just want to say, God does not call you to perfection. He calls you to be faithful. Mm-hmm. And I'll even go so far as to say, you will make mistakes. You will mess up, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. How you process that is really important. We talk about this in the course. You need to process it in a way that's like, okay, I made a mistake. That's okay. I'm human. I make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make a note of that, practice it. I might make that same mistake again, but I'm going to keep learning from it and moving forward to become better at what I'm doing. Guarantee you, Robin is a much better counselor after 16 years of doing it than the first week she was doing it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. I need to send out apology letters. So also, you can do everything perfectly and they can still choose abortion.
Absolutely.
Because it's really, right. I think it's part of the pro-life movement I don't love is this idea of like, I saved a baby. No. The mom chose that baby. Yes. Right. So I might have been a partner with her in that, but that was all on her. So I'm not responsible for either choice, whether it's life or not. That is not my responsibility.
Yeah. And I've had days where I feel like I did everything close to perfect, like the right pause, the right words, the right everything. And they turned and walked in and had the abortion. I'm like, I don't know. And then I've had days where I can't talk clearly. I'm stumbling over my words. My body posture feels all wrong. And I know I'm not saying the right things and I'm not making any sense. And the person chooses not to have the abortion. Like, thank you so much for talking to me. I'm like, I didn't say anything cohesive. And so, you can't put this stuff on yourself. Some days you're going to mess everything up and it still works out. And some days you're going to feel like you did everything right and it doesn't work out and it's not on you. You want to keep doing the best you can to be faithful and learn as much as you can and apply those things and move forward from there.
Yeah, I love how you said too that there's not a script and it's not cookie cutter how this is done, because if you are going to do motivational interviewing, when you're joining them in that place, it has to be authentic, right? Yes. So the part of me that has felt fear about anything needs to connect with the part of them that's feeling fear. And my whole kind of overall philosophy of abortion is it's fear. Everything boils down to fear. And people say, oh, but what if they're just choosing an abortion because they just want to finish college? There's still a fear there. There's a fear they won't be able to finish or they won't be successful. Everything. Fear is a huge motivator. The only thing that I know that overcomes fear is love. That's the only thing I know that overcomes fear. So Can you tap into your own fear and love them in that place?
I love it.
All right. So are we like bringing this to a close a little bit? Like, does everyone want to do kind of just like final thoughts? Well, like, I don't know how much deeper we can go in this moment. Like, what's amazing to me, let me just compliment both of you just real quick. I just want I have to point out, how many people clicked on this, maybe hoping for like a debate. And they experience something that never happens in real debates. This is proof this is a dialogue and very unscripted. Is both of you have changed your minds a little bit during this hour that we've been talking. That is so hard for people to do, especially when you are both aware this is not just a private discussion. This is going on YouTube. Like everyone has a little bit of that. Okay, I know, I know this is like,
still have anxiety
go
about like, maybe I'll change my mind in a year, but right now this is where I'm at.
No.
Yeah, but see, we do that. We do that. Where it's like we need to put like I am about to reshoot the entire bodily autonomy module of the Equip for Life course because it has been 5 years since we filmed that, and we've learned a bunch of things in the last 5 years. There is stuff in that module right now that is getting taken out. That we're not putting it back because we have just replaced it with better things. And like, that's just the nature of ERI. That's why I wanted to own cameras and lights, is because I know we're going to change our minds and I know we're going to find new things. And I want to be able to keep on policing basically and just give people, here is the best of what we know right now, not the best of what we knew 2 years ago or 5 years ago, but here's what we're learning right now. And so Robin, open invitation. Anytime you're like, I've changed my mind about something or I've got a new thought, you can be a series regular. Like, just keep on coming back. Yay! And we can continue having this discussion about a thing that most people in the pro-life movement are on a way different track than both of you. And maybe that changes. I kind of feel like I'm not going to quote anything, but I am seeing hints of things from other organizations that are kind of related that I feel like people are starting to figure this out too, which is really, really good. And it's something that I'm excited about. But it's like, this is so not a debate. I don't think either of you came to this expecting to change yourselves' minds at all. We basically only had one private conversation before this. Jacob and the three of us had one phone call, and that was kind of helpful to kind of try to get a lay of the land. And then it was kind of like, let's just save the rest for a recorded discussion so everyone can experience it. And I'm so glad we did, because this is the way good dialogues should go, where everyone is kind of able to move a little bit and, ooh, that's a really good thought. I hadn't thought about that before. Like, this is amazing. I'm so glad that we did this.
Me too. I could talk all day with you gentlemen, but I'm sure we all have things we have to do. So, and I'm sure the outside world only has a short time or attention span for intellectual conversation or debate.
So
closing thoughts, both of you.
I would just say, I think it's really interesting. Like you said, we both shifted a little bit here, given me a lot more to think about. I feel like my scopes have opened up a little bit. Like, I need to learn a few more things about how to meet people where they are. It's something that I feel like I do pretty well, but I think I could certainly do it better. And Robin's opening up some tools to do that. So the only thing I'd say is I kind of like to get a little something from Robin, some of the recap, some of the tools that she uses in some of these frantic things, and maybe get like some kind of, maybe she could write it out or something, so that just to give the basic premise so that we can, I want to practice this. I want to see if I can do more of this at the clinic and in other conversations where people are in a frantic state of mind or fearful one.
So I would love to be a part of that. And I'm just so grateful to have the opportunity to come and talk about this with you both. So thank you for that. I teach best in front of people, not on paper or on camera. However, I'm open to doing it some kind of like, can we just do a recorded course on how motivational interviewing works for the layperson? As long as I have live people to bounce questions off of. That's how I teach best.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would love to sit down and do a recorded motivational interviewing session for you guys so you can see, and it doesn't even have to be about abortion. It can be about any topic, but just so you can see how that happens and how it moves people from a place of resistance or defensiveness into a place of like, oh my gosh, I just shared my entire life story with you and I feel so much better about it. Like, how does that actually happen? And so I would be totally open to doing that as well.
I would love to make this happen. I've got a place that we could record that, and we could try to get people there. You can help us with the marketing, but I now that things with COVID are getting better, I could for sure see sometime in the next year, let's try to get a thing. I'll fly Robin in. Let's try to get a bunch of people here who want to learn about this technique. And I'll bring the cameras, and this can become a new module in the Sidewalk Counseling Masterclass, because I just think it would be really, really helpful for people about a very specific kind of a situation that happens on the sidewalk. That is not something that we've talked about already in the course. And so I think like this will be really helpful, kind of like get it out there now and people can get kind of an idea. But for sure, this is the kind of thing that we could film more training on that I just think would be super helpful.
Sounds good.
Yeah, this is good. This is good stuff.
Okay. Thank you both so much for being willing to have a recorded dialogue with each other that we can put out for the people that want to learn more about this. That's just an intimidating thing for anyone to do. I would have been intimidated. And so I just really appreciate you both for just the way that all of our conversations around this have gone. There's just so much kind of mutual respect for each other. And I just think it's a really great example just to give people about how to do that. And I'm just really grateful to know you both and for you both to be helping kind of, speak into what our students, our people are learning about how to hopefully save more lives and love people better. So thank you both.
Thank you.